Today I'm going to talk about when it's time to rebuild your motor and oil consumption. Now, how many times have you heard a guy say, yeah, man, I just did a top end or I just rebuilt my motor? And I'll ask them, really? How many miles did it have on it? And sometimes they'll tell me 85,000 or even 150,000. And I'm like, was it using oil? And they're like, no. And I'm like, why'd you rebuild it? And they'll say, well, because it was time. And I say, no, it wasn't. It is not time until you're using oil. And you can keep just pouring oil in for as long as you want until you get sick of putting oil in there. And then it's time for a top end. And I'm going to go into that today. And the reason being is I'm going to be doing some work on the Blue Mule here. Now, a lot of people know that I got the red bike recently. But after I got the red bike, what I realized is the Mule has to go back across the border and come back across for legal reasons I won't bother getting into. But it has to cross back. If I don't bring it back and do the legal work there at the immigrations, they'll never let me bring another bike across. So I'm riding the Mule at least another year. And the other thing is the red bike. The Mule is my baby, and it already is set up the way I like it, and I like to ride a bit better. Today I find myself in the woods with my bike in pieces, but it's a beautiful camp here. So I'm in a different place. I'm at Ron's place. His shop's out front, and I'm camped out here behind it. And let's take a look at where I'm staying and what I'm doing. I have to ride that blue bike for another year. It has to cross the border again for legal reasons. And it's using so much damn oil, I decided to try to fix it. Okay, so there's my camp. This is my surroundings. I think he inherited this place from his old man when he died. And I think he used to have fighting chickens here. It's a beautiful camp. I brought an extension cord out to my tent because my bike's not next to it to charge things. And I put in a shower here. Let's take a look. There it is. Huh? The shop is actually way out there. I'm not going to take y'all out to it. It's that building right there. It's actually a full-on shop. Okay? Well, there's a few things. He doesn't do like heavy engine work. I don't think he does the kind of stuff I'm doing right now. But I'm in the barn back here. Say hi, Ron.
Huh?
Say hi.
Oh no, not now.
On the phone. That's his bike. I don't know about these other ones. I think this FXR is his too. There's also a bunch of others in that room. And that's his dog. And we see where I got my bike to. She's skittish. Okay, this is what it's come down to. Let's go back. Here's all my parts. They're in a row in the direction they came out, so they'll go back in the same way. Back here's my table I set up. Look at this place. And heads. This is it. Where I'm staying. In bikes again, in a bunch of bikes. Now here's the deal. Some of you guys remember that out in Utah this last year, I lost my motor. I had a lifter wheel brake, which took out the whole motor. And I was at Rick's shop at Dirty Rat Cycles out there, and I got this motor and I put it in. Now, before I put it in, I opened the cam compartment because I wanted to take like the steel breather gear and a couple things out of my old motor and put it in my new motor. Now, the inside of this new motor, you could eat off it. It is clean and it's bone stock. This thing never been apart. But guess what? It's used a quart of oil every 500 miles since I put it in. It's just guzzling the fucking oil, man. And so I've just been pouring oil into it. Well, I mean, I'm really sick of that. And while I'm here, I'm going to do what I can to stop that. And while I'm in there, I'm going to show you what I know. Okay? I'm sure there's guys know more than me, but I'm going to show you what I know, where that oil goes. There's only 2 places it can go. And I'm going to check them both. I'm not doing a complete top end on this bike because I don't know how long I'm going to ride it, but I have other heads and I have one other set of cylinders that are used, and I'm just going to put the best of everything I got. So as I take it apart, I'm going to try to film it, and some of you guys know what you're looking at and some don't, but I'm going to try to film it in such a way as for a person who really doesn't know what's going on. The reason that this motor is using oil is probably bad machine work. I've seen this before, come from the factory using a lot of oil. I've seen it in Evo's twin cams, and I don't know. I got a friend who got a Milwaukee 8 who got rid of it recently because it was using so much oil, it just pissed him off. And he's a rich guy. He just got rid of it. He said he ain't getting another one. I don't know, they all use oil. But what it is it's bad machine work, because there's only two places that oil can go. It's by the rings or through the guides. And I'm going to show you how to check those and as I get this thing ripped apart. So let's take a look at where I sit now. I'm in Ron's barn, okay? And I've just started this job. I don't want to be in his shop because he got a habit of not coming in till noon or 1. And I want to get working on this. The shop's locked up. I've got it taken apart this far. And I'm going to pull the top off of this here, off the mule. Okay, now these systems are simple. In fact, this is the simplest motorcycle of its kind ever built, okay? Now, when you start taking it apart, you really see that. Now, all it does is there's explosions have to go on inside of the cylinders. We'll get to that. They have to have air and gas so that they have something to explode. You know, they need to be loaded and primed and fired. Now the carburetor mixes up the air and the gas, and the engine sucks it in through these holes, burns it, and then blows it out through these holes, which goes to the exhaust pipe. And it does it over and over again as you're going down the road. Now this is where the two pistons go on top of here. This is what's in my cases, right? This is what the motor's job is to turn these two shafts. This one goes to the back wheel, okay? The explosions happen up here, and this thing's just like a bicycle pedal. That's what a crank is. And it pushes it down, and then it comes back up, and it keeps firing, okay? It keeps more explosions, push it down. That's how the whole thing works. All right, thank you, Jody. So this is the inside, what's inside of the engines. This is what's sticking out the top with two pistons on it. On my case. This is out of a shovel head. You can see it's got the pistons on it still. See? Yeah. Same thing. That's how it works. Okay. That's what's down inside of my motor. And up above it is what I'm fixing right now, where the explosions happen. And once you know that, then you understand what has to happen. Those cylinders have to load, fire, at the right time, and then reload and fire again, and keep doing that over and over again. So then you know that you need a valve system, you need something to mix gas and air to send it in, you need a spark system. You get all those things working, hell, it should run. Okay, now I have the bolts out of the top of the rocker box. There's 4 on each, and so I'm going to take them off of there. Okay. There's the front one. Okay. On these old Evos, they come out in 3 pieces. Now I'm going to show you guys the basics of what happens here. This is kind of like that old mousetrap game for some of you guys who are old enough to remember that. One piece moves another piece, moves another piece until you catch a mouse. It's kind of like that. So down in here is a cam, which has lobes on it shaped like an egg. When I put this motor in, I had that open and I showed it and how everything in here works, actually, or how a lot of the things in here worked. And what that does is push rods that are in the middle of this up and down, because that thing spins around, and when the loby part comes up, because it's shaped like an egg, it pushes this up. That moves this here. Okay? All right, now that pushes up right here, which pushes down over there. It's just, they call it a rocker, what's like a seesaw, and it opens the valves. Okay, now remember I said the air and the gas comes in here, gets sucked in, goes down into here, gets burned, and then it comes out the exhaust, it's pushed out the exhaust. So what happens is there's doors up here in the top that has to open at the right time. and close at the right time. And that's what valves are. Valves are doors. And I'm going to show you how they work, because what oil consumption is caused by loose valve guides, and I'm going to get into that when I get this sucker apart. But for right now, I'm going to let you guys watch it move, okay? Should be able to just make it move. Get it? That's what it does, and that's what it's doing, opening these doors. There's 4 of them, 2 for each cylinder, valves. Some of you guys know this, but I'm trying to make this for guys who don't. And the next part of it is I'm going to take the rockers off right here. Just these bolts here. There's a few bolts, holds them all in. I'm going to take all them out, pull the rockers off, and when I get to that, and then I'm going to get the heads off, and I'll show you guys where the oil goes when you're using a lot of it. And the reason is new engines use oil is bad machine work. And if you take your parts and send them into a machinist, that doesn't always mean you get good work. I'm going to show you guys how to check at least valve guides with your hand. They make special tool for it, but I'm going to show you how to do it by hand so that you can check them before you send the parts in, or check them when you get them back, because I've seen engines come back with bad machine work and they're using oil right out of the box after you just did all that work and put them together. Okay? However, none of this engine is going to get that. I have other heads. I'm going to put the best of what I got in it, and we'll see if I can make it stop using oil. Okay, when I spun it around, I tried to get it in a position where these were mostly down. So as I loosen this, the lifters are going to push up on it. Come on, baby. Up, wrong side. They should anyway. See the way they're pushing it open right down there? I want to point out that your twin cams are going to be the same as this. I think they even use the same rockers. The difference is going to be that the rockers, the whole piece that holds the rockers in an Evo, is part of the bottom piece of the rocker. In a twin cam, those all have unbolt and come out separately. But you're going to find pretty much most of the rest of the top end to be the same. The differences are down there mostly. So if you're doing this to a twin cam, it's going to be basically the same deal as I'm doing right here. So let's see if it's possible to get this out of here. I'm probably going to have to put this camera down and fight with it. I'm going to have to pull the push rods out. See them there? Okay. And I'm going to need both hands for that. And I don't have a cameraman. I'll have to like pull them out through here. Okay, I'm going to have to open these push rod tubes, and I don't know if I can do that with one hand. It's done by pushing that down and pulling this piece out. Watch. Okay, see that? Okay, then these things telescope. They're like a telescope. See? Then I can pull them down. Should be able to. There we go. Okay, and it should make it easier to get the push rods out. They all come off like that, and they go back together like that. Okay? Okay, I had to mess with them, and it took both hands. See, they're in a tube. These are the adjustable ones I took out of my last motor. And I put those in so that if I have a problem down here, I can get into here without pulling the rocker boxes off. See, you can just unadjust these. The stock ones come as one solid piece, and you have to take this off to get in down there. So if I have a problem down here on the side of the road, I can get into this in a turnout. So what I'm going to do is set these in a row, because you want to put them right back where they came out of. They're all different lengths and width. Valve components, it's always best to put them back where they came out of. Okay, boys, now it shouldn't be too hard to get this out of here. Shouldn't be. It's gonna be though. Wants to fight me. Gonna need both hands. Okay, I want to show you guys how simple this little mousetrap stuff is. Okay, now these little rockers that rock in here, they just got a shaft going through them right there. And if you take this out, they generally just push out. Now this is a later model motor, and it appears that they're pressed in there a little harder. But everything else I've ever worked on, every other Evo, and my S&S motor, they just push right out. So you probably got to get in here and tap on it with a hammer. You know, take something, tap it out. And then this piece just pulls right out. And you can just put it back in and slide that piece back in. And that's all there is to it. These things will get worn sometimes on the end. Right there on the very end where they hit the valve. This one, however, looks good. You'll see pits and stuff in there. This looks fine. So, I'm going to leave these bolts where they lay. I'm going to take this thing, these different length bolts, and set it over here in a row. There's the rear one. Okay, front one goes in next. Okay, boys, now all there is 4 head bolts. Let's look from the other side. Okay, you got the 2 here that you can see, and you got the 2 back there, okay? And you got to have a 12-point half-inch to go on them. That's all there is. With that, the whole rest of it comes apart once those are out. I'm going to loosen them up a little at a time, probably the way the book has you do it, which is they have you go actually this way. That one, this one, this one. Now, I thought I had video of me pulling the heads and the cylinders off, which you just pull the heads off and then slide the cylinders off and up and out, but it looks like I don't have any of that. This is a Still Idiot with a Camera Productions. I was shooting this as I went with one hand, you know. And the other thing is that the studs gave me trouble. They're supposed to be nuts come off the top of the head and then studs coming out. You'll see them in this somewhere in here. And then, but these things were corroded up real bad, all this white stuff on them, and a couple of them pulled the studs out with them. I ended up replacing the studs on this thing, which lead me to the idea that what screwed this motor up originally may have been that somebody overheated it really bad. So with that, let's just move on to the engine parts because they are already off the motorcycle. I want you guys to take note that I have everything laid out in the way that it came off. Rear head, front head, rear cylinder, front cylinder. The cylinders are actually identical on Evos. I don't know about twin cams. Shovel heads, they're not. So it's easy to mix them up. If I was going to send them off, I would scratch a mark in them, front and rear. Rocker box is the same. It's always a good idea, I'm told, whenever you're working on a valve train, is to put all the parts right back where they came out of. They wear into each other, they tell me. I don't know, but I just do that because that's what they say to do. And I don't build these things. My job is to know how to fix them, is to try to be able to fix them. So all's in a row, and it's going back on the way it came off. I've been kind of meticulous to try to not lose any nuts and bolts. That's always a drag when you can't find the bolts you need because you lost them. And the other set of heads I had here is not as good. The ones that I took off the motor actually have tighter valve guides on them, and so I'm going to use those. But I really think the problem here is the piston rings, and we'll get to that. Well, here, let's take a look at them now, okay? These pistons are the bullets, and they have to slide up into the cylinders. And what seals them to the cylinders is 2 rings. That one there, right? They come off and they spring out. See? They're springy. They spring out. And you have 2 that are compression rings, therefore to keep the pressure in there. Okay? Where's the other bottom one? See, that one's got a thing too. Okay. And then you have this one, this bottom ring, which is actually 3 pieces. And that is an oil ring. And that's supposed to stop oil from going by. Well, you see the way it seems to have lost its spring? It's not springing out hardly at all. So you can see the way this sticks out. See these? I gotta squeeze them, right? But the oil ring isn't springing out at all. It's like it's lost its spring completely. See that? Now, I had this happen once before. It's not a common thing. I never actually heard of it before. But I had an overheating problem due to something else that was wrong, which I won't bother getting into, but the rear cylinder started smoking like a chimney. So I went over and I pulled the rear cylinder only off, and I took the rings and I set them inside of the cylinder, and they just fell through. They had lost their spring. I did a ball hone job on that one cylinder, put new rings in it, put it back together, and that fixed it. So Jody's coming in here on Sunday. He's going to mic my cylinders for me, okay? And we'll take a look at them right now, too. Come on. Okay. The rear one usually is the one that has the most trouble because it gets the most heat. Rear cylinder problems are more common than front cylinder. All right, now we're looking down this thing. You can see it's scuffed up a little, but not bad. That's pretty normal, okay? Scratched up a little in the front, but no big lines or grooves, okay? Nothing that really catches my nail. I can feel it, but there's no big scratches or scars. It's not terrible. Now, scratches along the front and the rear of the cylinder, up and down, are pretty common because when the connecting rod comes up, it pushes that way a little bit and then it pulls down the other way. So the piston's kind of getting rocked back and forth. So that's kind of normal wear. If you have big scars going down it and scratches, that's a problem. That's a problem. And then if Jody's going to check it, and if it's way out of round, see what happens is the hole wears round, it turns kind of oval shaped, and then everything don't fit no more. Then compression gets by it, and the exhaust gets into the oil, turns it black, and the oil gets up into the combustion chamber, and you start using a lot of oil, and that's what happens. And then you've got to bore it round again and put in a bigger piston. That's how that part works. That's all there is, guys. There's no place else for oil to go when you're burning it. Through the guides, by the piston rings. That's it. So we're going to see what happens when Jody's coming in here day after tomorrow. And Ron here doesn't have the ability to check cylinders. You got to have a special tool, and there's a bit of math involved, and it's kind of beyond me, but any shop has that tool and can check them for you. Now I'm doing this job between two shops in North Carolina that are 60 miles apart. Now Jody's shop to the north is better equipped for this kind of motor work, but he's moving his shop and he's ripping it apart. He's just getting ready to move it, and I can't do the job there. And so Ron's place, which is 60 miles to the south, he's got a barn that I can work in, and I'm able to keep both my bikes there, and I have the red one to get back and forth between them. So right now, we're going up to Jody's shop to concentrate on the cylinders and get them ripe and ready and fixed up to go back into the bike. Okay, now obviously what happens is with pistons going up and down these cylinders all the time, eventually they get worn and they get out of round. So I had him mic them, and I forgot to video that. But he's got a little tool he sticks down there to check where they're wider and thinner, and they're actually okay, which I figured they were going to be. And so the object here is he ball honed them, which scratches up the inside of them. And then I put new rings in. I'll show you the honing and what it does. Okay, see if we can see this. See the scratches he put on the side? He did it by running that thing through it with a drill. Goes on a drill, scratches up the inside, right? See him? So for whatever reason, I mean, I don't invent these things. Rings have to seat. They have to wear themselves into the cylinders. That thing acts like a file in there, those scratches, and it files the rings until they fit real good. Don't ask me, man. I don't invent them. But that's all I'm going to do to it, and I'll bet you it's going to stop using oil. Time will tell. Now what I got to do is put them in the sink and wash them. Really good. Drop these things, they break. Put them on the bike, they last. Going in here, hot water, soap, and I gotta scrub them until when I rub a towel on them it comes out clean with hot water. So I'm gonna get on this. Took a bunch of scrubbing to get it like that. Nothing left in there. Evos you don't have a front and rear cylinder. They're both the same. So you can see I marked this one when I took it off, rear. So that's what you have to do. I want this one to go back on the same piston because I'm using the same pistons. I'm just putting rings in. Okay. The problem with just doing a ring job is you have to take the base gaskets off. And the base gaskets on an Evo cylinder weld themselves on there. If you're going to do like a top end, when you send it out to the machinist, he'll put the thing on a lathe and use a machine to take that shit off. So, but if you're not just doing a ring job like me, then you have to sit with a razor and some chemicals, and nothing works, man. There's nothing except you're going to spend a day probably trying to scrape these off. Let's take a look. Okay, you can see I've been working on this one, and I've got like that much taken off, okay, with this razor, a little napkin because it's chewing up my finger, right? And there's nothing you can do but scrape little bits at a time, like that, right? Little bits at a time. It's an all-day affair. The problem that you have is the aluminum cylinders are soft and the steel is hard, and if you use a metal that's hard against one that's soft, you'll cut into it, and you don't want to cut into it. So I'm going to scrape these down as best I can, and then I'm going to use some WD-40 and some brake cleaner and whatever other chemicals we have, and use this Scotch-Brite stuff, which is like a plastic steel wool, because it's softer than the metal and it won't scratch it. You can't use steel wool because that will scratch it. So that's the game here, and I don't know any way around it. Nobody I know knows any way around it. For some reason, the gaskets, the stock gaskets, paper gaskets on an Evo are the worst there is in the world. They somehow weld themselves into the metal, and you're just going to spend a day trying to get it off without trying to screw up the metal. And you don't have this on twin cams. It's only an Evo thing. But so as soon as I get it down as far as I can get it, I'm going to switch over to the Scotch-Brite, and then it's a rub, 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 spray, rub, spray, rub. Finally, it's 1:30. Took a few breaks, but I started this morning. I got one done. You can see, I don't know if that helps. I got it a little bit with the razor blade on the inside here, right? This is just one of the studs, so it's not a big deal. So, I mean, that's what you're trying to not do, but good luck. This one here I did real clean because, well, this is the one that leaks because of the return line right there. So I made a real effort on that one. Alright. You can see I beat that one up a little bit. I hope I've made clear in this video that you're able to see that there's a combustion chamber in the middle where the explosions happen. All the gas and air gets compressed and then lit, and it explodes. Okay, that place is supposed to stay dry, doesn't have oil in it. Below it, where in the bottom of the motor, there's oil everywhere, and you're trying to keep that from going up into the combustion chamber, which is what we went through on this video. And in the top, you have the valve guides, and there's oil up there too, plenty of it, and you're trying to keep that from going down into the combustion chamber. And I'm going to get into the heads on the next video. This one was about getting the cylinders ready, and I'll show you all about how to look at those and basically how to check them with your hand on the next video. Now, I have a friend who got a very big motorcycle channel that was recently just taken down for stuff it should not have been taken down. Even just the video they didn't like, they could have just took that one, but they 86 his whole fucking channel like they did to mine last year with this whole YouTube stuff. Us creators are walking on eggshells around these boys because you never know what the fuck they're gonna do. So I want you all to know that I also, everything I have up here, and actually more, because everything that was on my last channel that they took down is still up over there. I have all the stuff on Odyssey.com, and if you go over there and just search Scooter Tramp Scotty, you'll find my stuff there. And if you subscribe there, if I get thrown off here again, screw it, you know. I'm not gonna fuck with these guys anymore. The reason that they're able to have such power is because people won't go to the free speech channels. So I want you all to know that I'm also over there with everything that's here, and you can subscribe there too. That's a good place just to go and look around anyway. Now, I can't leave you guys a link to that, I don't think. I mean, I can, but it's sketchy if I do. So you'll just have to go find it yourself As usual, I've left you links to some other stuff that I can leave here and below in the drop box. And in the next video after this one, because I can't fit this all into one, I'm going to get into the heads and how to check what's wrong with them and how to fix them and find out if they even need to be rebuilt. And I'll leave a link to that video when it comes up, one of them little boxes that you put up here somewhere that takes you over there. And I'll see you guys all over there when that video comes out.